Hello and welcome to the Smart Women in Business vlog and podcast. Today I'm talking to Dr. Claudia Consolati. Claudia is a coach and visionary women entrepreneurs who want to grow wildly successful businesses doing what they love. Claudia believes finding your voice and boldly sharing it with others is the number one key to growing a business that makes you tons of money and changes lives. Welcome, Claudia. I'm thrilled to have you here speaking boldly.
Hi, Jane. I'm so happy to be here and looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, it's very exciting to have you here. We've been friends on Instagram for a while.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know, you have had a very interesting journey to get to this point. So please tell me about your business journey.
Yeah, my business journey, as many business journeys have been, it has been a journey for sure. It started about 4 years ago when I was in academia, I was a professor, and I had this feeling that wasn't it. It wasn't enough. I was meant to do more. Not that it was necessarily wrong what I was doing, but there was more that I was meant to do. More people that I was meant to help, more things that I was meant to say, more money that I was meant to make. So I started playing with this idea of starting a business, and I was always interested. It's part of my studies in my PhD and what I teach. I was always interested in women's voices and how they were suppressed in society and how I could use my own leadership skills and my own journey of finding my own voice to kind of like amplify women's voices. So my business journey started very literally, and I became a public speaking coach. That made sense to me at the time. But then as I was doing it, I was able to grow a successful business, but I was never able to go past the $5,000 or $6,000 months. And something I was kind of like hitting a ceiling, and I didn't know what was wrong. And little by little, I realized that I needed to refocus and reshift a little bit. The focus was always women's voices and how to amplify them, but it wasn't necessarily public speaking. It was more like all encompassing. And that's how I made the shift to being a business coach. And I do help women build, grow, and scale businesses based on their authentic voice and their authentic message. So the first step is always finding their voice.
Yes. It's what you and I do is really closely aligned in that we have like my raison d'etre, and I've said this before, is to help women build successful businesses. And the only way you can have a successful business is to feel aligned with your business. And the only way you can feel aligned with your business is to have that authentic voice, which means a whole lot of inner work.
Yeah.
And hitting those ceilings, it's really interesting.
Because I really analyzed deeply what wasn't working in the previous version of my business. Of course, it was successful, but I wasn't able to reach the levels that I really wanted to reach. So I really spent a lot of time analyzing what I was doing, quote unquote, wrong, or like what I thought I had to do that wasn't actually in alignment, and what I was taught that I had to do. Because I was taught that when I started my business, I didn't know anything about business. I was taught to follow all these rules. I was taught to follow all these like 5-step funnels, all like these like technical things that really didn't feel good, but I really didn't know any better. And then I realized, well, actually, what I've been taught suppresses my authentic voice. And the key to wild success in business is to liberate my authentic voice. And then so I stopped doing all the things that I didn't want to do, like writing blog posts, and not because I like writing, but I didn't like putting them on the website. So I kind of like removed all the tech that really wasn't supporting me. And I simplified everything, and I really made the core of my business. And you can tell easily from my Instagram, for instance, what I have to say. And I think it's very important, and it's really helpful to my people.
I love your Instagram because it is, and that's a key of becoming a thought leader is not doing all the shoulds.
Yeah.
Should is like my least favorite word, and it is the enemy of being a standout thought leader and a standout personal brand. Because if you're doing what everyone else is doing, you're just the same as everyone else, and then you're not standing in your own individual authentic voice. Totally. In your own individual authentic brand.
Yeah, totally. But I feel like for women especially, it's so hard to get away from the shoulds, because that's how we've been taught to live. And that stuff, we talked about it. I studied that in grad school, but also like I lived through it. I was like trained to follow the shoulds. Like I became hyper professional. I got an Ivy League PhD because I was following the shirts. And then like, so I did that in business as well. And we all women have been trained to be good girls and people pleasers. And so like traditional business advice kind of like implies following the rules and being a good girl. And I realized I did a lot of work on myself around that as well, which I now do with my clients as well, to kind of like bust free of that good girl conditioning. But I realized I had to like break open and break free of all of that to really have a successful business and kind of like not care about the rules or like what everyone else is doing.
Or whether people like you. That's a big one for women.
Yeah, totally. And catering to others, so like a big one, and I talk about that on my Instagram, for me is like finding your niche, which of course it's sound business advice. You want to speak to your ideal clients, but I feel that was the case with me because so much business advice was around finding your niche. I was going to my niche before finding my authentic voice. So I was people pleasing before pleasing myself in some way, right? And that blocks so many of my clients, and I see so many women being stuck on that, and then being stuck by going to the niche first. They're stuck in patterns of people pleasing that are so familiar to all of us, me included. So
we're not judging.
Yeah.
And it's habitual. It becomes a habit. It becomes a behavior.
Totally. We don't even realize that we're doing it. So like it's a bold step to claim your voice and be like, no, your voice automatically includes your niche because it's your story and it's who you're meant to help, because like you had to help yourself through your story and now you want to help others. So like it's the niche is not something that you have to artificially fabricate or go out find it with like a, you know, like, yeah, artificially find it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because your niche and your story, people love stories. People, like we say, people buy into stories because they are invested in them, they find them interesting. But your niche can confine you as much as it can define you. It can be a trap if it's not completely aligned with where you want to be.
Yeah,
it's a dangerous place
that's
to be.
why I think starting with your voice and your story is so key, because I firmly believe, I mean, with the women who are attracted to my message, you know, there are different types of businesses out there. If you have maybe a product-based business, maybe like, you know, you want to think about the niche first. You know, I always have this example of like, if you're selling like a leopard print scrunchie, you know, you don't want to sell it to a bald man, right? So like it depends on the type of business, but like with a service-based business, with women who really like have a story to tell and really care about creating a different world and seriously helping other people who are on a similar path, I think finding your voice is key, because like that's where the niche is, versus like going to the niche first. And then you hear those stories of like, oh, I help, you know, executives, senior executives, like those kind of like, yes, it makes sense on paper, but then it's like help executives in the like from 35 to 55. So like those artificial kind of like demographic elements of the niche, versus like, no, what are their problems? What are they struggling with? Which is like, what did you struggle with that you can help them through?
People don't feel their demographic. They feel their problems. They experience their problems.
Yeah, totally. And I love how you phrase it. The feeling.
The feeling. Right? It's all about the feeling.
Niche is a feeling thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And it's a, I always say it's the vibe of the thing. It's the, and you'll know in the feedback that you get from the people that you interact with, whether your messaging and whether your voice is having impact. So we're always in a feedback loop.
Yeah, totally. And then like, yeah, because like, of course it's not about being just egocentric and just like talking at people and talking about yourself. That's not like, I feel like with me and the women I work with, you know, we're kind and generous at heart. So like our voice already includes wanting to help people and wanting to solve a big problem and wanting to share a story so that it can help others, right? So like, and then you get feedback, as you say, from your people, and then you keep adjusting and tweaking, right? So it's like, it's an unequal plane.
Yes.
Versus you just cater to the niche, because that's like codependency and people pleasing and like, yeah, and being the helper which of course we want to help, and like, but like we don't want to put ourselves in the role of helper, because that's when we don't make offers, that's when we're not bold, that's when we're like in a supporting role, which we are as coaches and service-based providers, but like we're not just that, we're leaders as well. We're not just the supporters.
We'll take you along on the journey too.
Yes.
So obviously your business has changed over the last few years. So what are the signs along the way that it was time to change, time to evolve for you? And often that is inner. I get that.
Yeah. For me, it was like, I was like burnout in my previous business because I wasn't reaching the income levels that I wanted. I did have clients coming my way, and I was like, something is not working here. And I don't know exactly, I wasn't able to figure out exactly what it was at the time. So I had to take a few months off to kind of like regroup. I had also like some personal things going on that I just needed to regroup. And that was very beneficial. And over that time, so the main sign was like, okay, this is not working. There's something that's not working. And I'm super tired. It doesn't feel fun. I was still connected to my why because it was about sharing women's voices and amplifying women's voices, but something wasn't flowing. And so I took a few months off. And then I was like, no, there's something bigger here that I'm meant to do, right? It's not just about writing the signature talk for me personally. It's about like really helping women create businesses based on their authentic voice. And I mean, looking back, I know what wasn't working in my previous business. It was like I wasn't charging enough. Yeah, that was definitely a big thing. And I wasn't in full alignment.
And the alignment thing, I find that when you go through peaks and troughs in your business, and when you fall out of alignment with what you're doing, or you're not charging enough, the thought of working just makes you feel tired.
Yeah.
Or you resent it, or you resent the clients, or you resent the work. And that's when you're like, things have got to change. And this is the perfect time of year to do that step back, examine, reset.
And also I would say trust your intuition. And like I'm changing that, but like I tend to make decisions late in the game. Like I'm very cautious with my decision. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm changing that, and I'm becoming like, a faster decision maker. But like, trust yourself. If you're feeling yourself burn out, that something is not working, just trust yourself sooner rather than later.
And if you need an afternoon off to watch Netflix and lie on the couch,
totally.
That's your right as an entrepreneur.
And you know what? Like now I consider that working. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous, but like the downtime, the self-care, the care of the self, I honestly consider that working, because like we are the face of our business, and like I'm highly sensitive, introverted, like empath, whatever, all of the things. So I need a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
And I consider that work time now.
Yeah. And I was listening to something the other day that said, if you work for yourself and you are the creator, you need to actually give yourself time off to get into creative flow, because that's when the ideas come. Let your brain go into that down state instead of the alpha or whatever. I can't remember what the waves are. When your brain's always on, you're not in creative flow, and you can't come up with these amazing ideas. It's like why we have amazing ideas in the shower, because we're off. So
and sometimes I sit down and like I'm like, on Monday I need to write my content, right? And sometimes nothing comes. And then like I just give myself space, and I can write like 5 posts in an hour. Or like
sure.
We've all experienced that.
And give yourself the time to do it. Don't try and multitask. That's one of the things I learned. I'm like, stop flitting from, just go bang, block out time and stick to it, and have your emails off. So do you still work in academia?
I am still a professor. Yes.
Yeah. So how do you manage that life with all the many things that you turn up and be in your life as an entrepreneur?
I mean, it's not always easy, I'll say, but mostly not so much because I still teach, but because I am highly sensitive and I am a creative, and like sometimes I require a lot of downtime, right? Like, I mean, I'm forward facing a lot on social media, teaching with my clients. So like I need to recharge a lot.
Mm.
So, and I'm getting better at it. I mean, I'm definitely also a high performer and like very, very type A and very ambitious. So like not either, that's probably the lesson that I'm learning this year, to just like step back and relax and kind of like, yeah, take time for myself doing other things non-business related, because like I also like reading, and sometimes I read like money mindset books, stuff that's always business related because I like it, but like I get tired. So like I'm learning. I'm not perfect by any means. It's still a bit of a challenge for me, but like to just do other things. And of course, in time of COVID, it's a little bit more challenging because otherwise I would travel a little bit or see more friends. But I feel like, my edge is learning to take real time off.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is a challenge.
Yeah.
Because my brain is always going over, and I go, okay, well, over the holidays, I'm going to plan out all of 2021. And I'm like, that's a bad idea. That is a bad idea, because you just end up exhausted at the end of your holidays. Give yourself permission to rest.
Yeah. And I find that, I mean, I work from home. I have a hard time, and I'm stuck at home right now.
Yes.
It is challenging. Like, if I were to take a trip, for instance, it would be easier to kind of like detach and disconnect. Staying at home, it's a little bit more challenging for
so
me.
You're in lockdown at the moment?
We're not in lockdown, so I can technically go out, but I'm not like
choosing not to.
I mean, I go out sometimes outside with friends, but like I cannot. I don't travel right now.
Okay.
I used to go salsa dancing once a week, and like that I'm not doing. So like activities that I knew would like just like get me out of my head and into my body, I'm just like not doing them. Or like if I'm working out, I mean, maybe I'll go with a hike for a hike with friends, but like if I'm working out, it's at home. So like it's always like kind of here, and it's a little bit more challenging, I have to say. But I'm looking forward to when we can travel again. And
so am I. So much, because I always have a holiday to look forward to, and I realize how mentally that goes. All right, I've just got a couple more months and then a proper break, because we always have a big proper break. And I'm like, wow, without that carrot at the other end, I'm like, whoa, I've just gotta, this is just it, Groundhog Day for I mean, it's Christmas coming up, so
it's a good, like, also as an advice suggestion for other entrepreneurs to have like something to look forward to, like a holiday or like a break, a vacation, right, as you're describing.
It was interesting because you were saying, we were talking before we came on about our red lipstick, and I always see Claudia on Instagram with red lipstick, and you were saying how you bought yourself a gift as a reward at the end of working with a client or a client contract. And I love getting a reward either at the beginning or the end, or both. So
yeah, totally. So like every time I do something, I mean, I have like, like either after each new long-term client, or like after, like if it's a bigger award, after like a couple of clients. But like the one before this, I got the Dior red lipstick, as I was telling you, after signing a 6-month client. And the one before, I did a staycation, and I booked a hotel because I was like, I still had to work, unfortunately, but like I was like, I need to get out of my house.
Yeah.
So,
yep. I feel
so
you.
I stayed in a nice hotel for 3 days.
And rewards can be monetary, tangible, intangible, experiential. But I think setting yourself goals and setting yourself rewards is a really important part of getting through, ticking off those goals. Your brain needs that feedback, that little hit that you've done something awesome. And if you just go, right, tick it off my to-do list, when it's something massive, it's not as impactful on your brain as, woohoo, I get to buy myself something fun. Usually for me it's crystals. For you,
crystals. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So my daughter's snagged them all.
I love
like,
that.
Yeah, I love it. She's like, it's for me, Mom. I'm like, oh, here, have a crystal.
You're the crystal supplier.
Yeah, and the pusher. So what does a great day in the office look like for you, Claudia?
For me, a great day is when I'm really centered and balanced. Sometimes, like, I cannot always predict when that's going to happen.
No.
But, uh, so like, yeah, but like when I'm centered and balanced and I have like things to do, but not an overwhelming amount. So like, my ideal work, I don't work more than 2 or 3 hours per day. Sometimes I have to work more, but like honestly, I feel best when I work 2 3 hours per day, maybe 5 days a week. And then I take breaks in between, and then I just like nourish myself. I think something that has become very important for me, especially in 2020, is this idea of nourishment for myself, because we're givers, we're service providers, and it's so easy to give and give without realizing that we also need to be nourished back. Um, and that's why it's also so important, like as a side note, to charge higher prices, because you're putting out so much to help your clients, and you need to be nourished back. And like it can come in a monetary form, but then like you can also take care of that on your own. But like this idea of like, and it's something that I teach my clients all the time, that like, yes, you need to put out, you need to put out content, you need to put out value, there's this big talk about value and being of service, but like, don't forget that you also need to expect to receive value back in one way or another, right? Depending on where you are in your business, if you're at the very beginning, maybe like you need to put out more than you get back in terms of exchange with your clients. So then you have to take care of like what's coming back to you. So like maybe booking the massage or the hotel or the crystals or the lipstick, whatever makes you feel nourished, or taking time off to watch Netflix or whatever.
Yeah.
Or going for a walk. But like something that I see happening all the time is women, because we are trained to be such good girls and people pleasers, to put out value without expecting to receive back in some way. So like it's all going outward, and we're not being nourished in that exchange. So that nourishment back is such a foundational piece of who I am now. And I'm not always perfect by any means, and it's a learning curve for me too, but like something that I also teach my clients, because sometimes it's easy, especially with marketing, to think that like the more we do, the more it works. And on paper, of course, it's like that. But like if we're not expecting to receive back in terms of people booking calls, or people working with us, or commenting on our posts, then it's just like output, and it's very, very draining.
And it's incredibly difficult in those first, that early period where you go, okay, I've got to give and give and give. Yeah. But it becomes a time in every business where there's a tipping point between time and money, and you are the greatest asset in your business. You need to protect you, and you're always giving three things. You're giving time, attention, or money, and you need to get those things back. And that attention could be back on you, that time could be back for you, and that money could be back for you. And you need to be very rigid in your boundaries around that.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, it's tricky, especially in the early stages, because like, with business, you kind of need to invest before you make money with any business, not just the service provider, but if you're like opening a coffee shop, you need to invest like a considerable amount of money to really make your business work. And like, I know things changed for me big time when I hired a one-on-one business coach, right? And that's why now I believe so much in one-on-one support, because like it was a huge investment, but it really also opened the floodgates of like my money mindset, opened me to the flow. And that's why I'm able to be like, last month I had a 10K week, which I was able to have because I've made risky investments, and I was scared, but I also had this awareness inside of me that it was going to work no matter what. Like I had the self-trust that it was going to work no matter what.
Yeah. And trusting your own decisions.
Yeah.
Because you're the only person in your business who's accountable to that. And you're the one who needs to find that ROI on those decisions. And coaching, I've worked with good coaches, I've worked with bad coaches. And you got to be able to trust your instincts on whether that person is a good fit for you. And you can't just read their copy and read the testimonials. You've got to have a conversation with someone and trust your instincts.
Yeah. And sometimes multiple conversations. That's why I'm always willing to like get on Zoom with potential clients a couple of times, you know, like if it becomes like over and over again, okay, like no, they need to make a decision.
Yeah.
And it's clear that they're not trusting themselves. But like if they want to have a couple of chats, I'm always available for that, because like this is something that my coach says, that like we're kind of like random people on the internet, right?
We are totally random people,
right?
On the internet. Yeah.
So it's like it's almost harder for them to choose us. You know, it's like it takes a lot of trust. So like I'm always willing to show up in the early stages, even before they pay me a dime, to build that trust.
Yeah, you got to earn that trust through.
Yeah.
And it is a value exchange. It's through, but it's demonstrating your knowledge, and trust isn't the key to every sort of service-based relationship. And you can't just shove people through a funnel and expect they're going to trust you. Which I get, you know, randoms on LinkedIn. Buy my things.
LinkedIn. Like, what is LinkedIn? You know, yeah.
Whereas I love getting to know people. I mean, I spend time on LinkedIn, I spend time on Instagram, but I find I get to know people really well on Instagram. And everyone needs to go and look at Claudia's feed, and we'll give you the link later on, because your Instagram I adore, because it is so refreshing and not cookie cutter and honest. And you are the queen of selfies, which I know you had to really put yourself out there to get there.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. I would never have thought of myself as the queen of selfies. And like, I think it's easy to look at my Instagram and be like, oh, she's like the queen of selfies.
So confident.
Yeah, and I'm gonna steal that and use it totally, right? And but no, like my stories, and I talk about it on my website and also on my Instagram, but like I was removed, like beyond shy, beyond introverted, right? Like, and I think as a child, I was like super shy and super introverted, like literally kind of removed. I would spend like hours by myself in my room reading. It was like my security blanket. But then as an adult, getting my PhD, I was like hiding in a different way through my professionalism and the mask of being a professor. And that was like peeling off the layers of all of that was like the journey of finding my own voice. So like what you see on Instagram, like it is who I am right now. It's always like authentic, but like it's not, I wasn't born confident. I'm not extroverted at all. Like I'm still super introverted.
So am I.
Yeah, I'm still kind of shy, and also like I'm awkward, you know, like I'm socially awkward.
So awkward.
Yeah, so awkward. And I think we should celebrate that. And I talk openly about that. So that it's not a thing anymore, right? It just is. And so like that's part of reclaiming our true expression and our true voice, that like we just embrace all that we are. And we make that part of our business and our story, and people really resonate with that. But I love that you said I'm a queen of selfies. The funny story about that is that, you know, the one I always joke that the one skill that I learned in 2020, because I was stuck at home, was like to take selfies. So I guess like my Instagram reflects that.
Yeah, you've become excellent at selfies. I appreciate
Thank
them.
you. I'll take that.
So what tools do you use in your business to be really efficient, obviously, and productive? Obviously Zoom, key.
Yeah, totally Zoom. I don't use that many. I need to start implementing some more, because I want to like you know, scheduling tools, and like probably hire a VA as well. That is my next edge. So, but like, you know, I mean, my business is very simple. I have a Squarespace website that I haven't updated in forever. And like, I get all my clients and prospects from social media, especially from my Instagram, right? Because it does connect with people. And I always get comments about like, not just the pictures, but also the words. I'm very intentional about the words that I use. And there's like deep thought that goes into it. Like it's part of a philosophy of life and business, and like I share that. So I would say really like it's Instagram and my words, you know, like that I write on a Google Doc, so like super low tech, and then I share them there. So like, and I do use it with clients. I use Trello, and I also love Acuity. I have a love affair with Acuity.
Yeah. I'm still on Calendly, and I'm like, oh, Acuity's over there, and yeah, I still love it. I love anything that can automate, but I'm not massive on automation. That's one of the things I want to outsource next year. As you said, a VA. I don't have a VA yet. But I've got a big document all my VA tasks are in there, because I'd never sat down and thought about what they could do for me. and I realize all the different things that they can do. So yeah, that for me is the next step. So one of the things that I always ask in these podcasts, and that affects everyone in business that I've known, is imposter syndrome. And so what are your methods to overcome and get through the bad days in business beyond the beautiful Instagram that we see?
I don't know if I have any tools. It's like, it's more like you kind of like expect it and you just like live through it. I think like a lot of like messaging out there, especially about business, is like, oh, everything is like shiny and like it's ease and flow.
Ease and flow.
Right. And you're working on the beach or whatever, right? And it's not like that, because like we're human beings, so we're gonna have good days. And also we're like, I'm emotional. Like I have like moody, kind of like, yeah, exactly. My mood changes, right? So like I just like have to honor that in the moment. And I try to be as honest as I can about that. But like something about imposter syndrome that is part of my own journey, I don't judge myself. I don't know if I have imposter syndrome anymore. Not to say that I'm always like 100% confident, but I realize that imposter syndrome, because of my studies and my own journey, is something that's like culturally constructed, right? I believe that women especially have imposter syndrome because we try to function in a society that wasn't built for us. Right? So we are imposters because we're trying to function in a society that was built for us to fail or not succeed. So realizing that it wasn't really like that I was lacking in any way, that it was like cultural and systemic messaging and constructs that I had internalized, that you know, it wasn't my fault. So it was more the journey of really deconstructing that and reclaiming my voice, my wholeness, my sovereignty, even in the mess, even the days that are like not so good. That is really liberating, because there's a lot of like compassion towards myself, even in the bad days. And yeah, so in the past I would really judge myself if I was spending the day on the couch watching Netflix, and now it's like, no, I guess I need this. Right?
And try not to assign guilt to that experience.
Yeah, I love that. And it's kind of like to be expected, totally normal. You're also like, as an entrepreneur and business owner, you're constantly doing things that you haven't done before. So you're constantly doing new things, right? And I love, you know, I was trained as a professor. I love being the expert because it's so safe. You know, like you're in the front of the room, you're speaking, you know, you're kind of like the authority in the room. While as an entrepreneur, yes, you are the expert in some ways, but you're constantly evolving. So like you're always challenged. You never stop. And so like you're always kind of learning, and you have to get really comfortable with being in that uncertain space.
You have to be uncomfortable with making mistakes.
Yeah, that too.
Because
it's not fun.
it's not, and it's not because we are ego driven. We can't deny that we're ego driven. We love being right. We love winning. We love, even if we're introverted, non-competitive, non-type A's, we still love winning. We still love being competitive, and we still love being right. That is the human way. But at the same time, you have to get comfortable with making mistakes. I was reading something the other day that said, you know, if you haven't made a mistake, you're not an entrepreneur. Because you can't get to a point of making money without making mistakes, which sounds really weird, but I make mistakes all the time, and learn all the time.
And I also kind of like almost don't frame them as mistakes anymore, because it's almost like
learning,
learning or stepping stone or whatever. And I love what you said about making mistakes and making money, because it's true. Because like if you hold on too tight to money, and that was part of my story, right? I come from Italy originally, and as a country, Italy is not the richest country, but we save a lot. So I was holding on to money almost too tightly, and money doesn't flow. Money likes flow, right? And so like I had to start spending more than I was comfortable with the trust that money was gonna come back. And one of my mantras now, and that's why I'm able to like have such success, is that every investment I make comes back 10 times. And it's been true.
And money mindset is, it's as I said before, the tipping point between time and money. And so many of us are in business for a long time, but we've still got that startup mindset of, I've got to hold on to all the money. I've got to hold on to all the money. I don't know where the next money is coming from. And having that mentality around money means it won't flow. And money mindset is something to work really hard on. And it's intangible, but at the same time, when you see the results, you see it's a very tangible thing because you've got the money sitting there.
Yeah, and that's how like you're able to scale quickly also. I mean, it takes courage to make bold decisions with money, but like the rewards can be really, really high. But you have to be uncomfortable, not just in spending, but also in receiving. You know, you have receiving big chunks of money, that can be really uncomfortable, right? If you're like used to thinking maybe small around money, but you know you're ready for the next level. So it's really a multi-layered thing, and like it keeps evolving as you reach the next level as well. And I've also done a lot of work around money mindset, and I'm happy with where I'm at. I feel like I got it. You know, I'm in touch with the flow, but there's always a next level in spending and receiving and making and like all of that.
And talking about money. Women are conditioned not to talk about money because it's showing off, or we're not allowed to talk about being successful because people won't like you. And that likability is something that's ingrained in us that we have to hold on to. And you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and people will think you're showing off, but it doesn't matter.
No, I love talking about money. And I think,
it's empowering.
It's so empowering, right?
Yeah.
And also like, it's empowering for us, but also we set such a powerful example for others, right? And it's not about bragging about like, you know, the big money results. It's not about that. It's about showing what's possible, but it's also like, no, like, you know, women in the US until the 70s in some states could not have a credit card without their husband signing.
Home loan. My friend in the early 80s couldn't get a mortgage. She's like, well, what am I meant to? I'll get your dad to sign it. Well, he's passed away. What am I meant to do?
Yeah. So it's like revolutionary for us to talk about money, because like that was like 50 years ago, you know, like not that long ago at all. And we were like, you know, this is another of my teachers says this, we were property until not that long ago.
Yeah.
You know, like
women were property.
Women were property. So like but I know it's triggering. Like, you know, I know the more I'm bold with my voice and I more have like firm boundaries and the more I'm sovereign, I trigger people, and that's okay. I mean, I get triggered too sometimes, but like, no, it's okay. Like, you know, I've grown enough that I can hold that space and that they need to grow into it. And if they keep following me, then there'll be a point where they won't get triggered anymore. And they're like, oh, I need to work with her because I need to be like that.
And it's hard. It is hard to hold that space, because often when we trigger people and they fight back, we go, oh God, she doesn't like me.
Or I did something wrong.
Oh my God, I've made a mistake. And then you want to go back into shell again and not be so bold and not put your voice out there. But if we don't do it, who's going to do it?
Right. And and it's such a powerful example for others. So like, it's almost like why I do it. I mean, there's like business reasons why I do it and I share my results, but also like, I am not, and there are posts on my Instagram about like finding your voice in money. They're strictly related, because I realized at one point that like me not having control of my money, and I'm not perfect by any means, but like I'm getting better and better, was also me kind of like being subservient to like a daddy figure that I wanted to save me around money, and not trusting my own ability to handle money. Right. And I had to make that decision. Was like, no, I'm not always going to make the right choice, but I don't see why I wouldn't be competent around money. But I still have, you know, like as an Ivy League PhD, as a professor, as a successful business owner, I still thought that I wasn't competent about money with no evidence whatsoever. Right. This was all culturally ingrained. Then I was like, no, this is nonsense.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it?
It's so weird.
It's
but
so
like
weird.
Our
beliefs, you know, you've got to question your beliefs and why your brain is telling you that. So, you know, is it actually true? And oftentimes it's not. it's just this little voice in our head that isn't actually real.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, I also understand, for me, it was very important to understand the societal conditioning, cultural conditioning that seeps through how business is taught, how people tell us that we need to do business versus like, no, you just like need to tap into what you really want to say. And going back to what you were saying about being triggered and holding that space, you know, of course, like when that happens, I go through the emotions, right? Like, I'm like, oh my God, I did something wrong. Then I'm like, no, actually, no, I didn't do anything wrong. And what saves me there, and it took me some time to get here, is this belief in my innate goodness and giving myself grace. So like, I mean, it could be that I phrase things like in the not the most graceful way, say that happens, right? That doesn't mean anything, you know, like I believe in my own goodness, and I give myself grace. And if other people are not willing to give me grace, it's either, I mean, if I don't know them, it's their stuff, I don't take it on.
Yeah.
If I know them, well, like I'm gonna consider if they're gonna keep staying in my life.
Yeah.
If they're not willing to extend that grace to me.
I've been through a few experiences like that this year.
Yeah.
And with people I know in my community, on my Facebook community. If you're friends with me on Facebook, you've probably seen a few of these, where I'm no longer going to be the nice person, the nice girl, the good girl, and go, oh, what if I upset them? What if I hurt his feelings? That's gone.
Yeah.
And I'll give you grace if you give me grace.
Yeah, totally.
And we will have a conversation. But if that starts going into misogyny, mean-spiritedness, any of those places of hate, you're out.
Oh, totally. And literally at one point your vibration is such that there's literally no space for that. You know, literally you're not a vibrational match anymore with that. And also there's something to be said about, like, you know, when you've done your own work and you've done your own healing and you're here, say like, yes, the good girl and someone is here, not because they're deficient in any way, but they haven't done enough healing or like not the same kind. You know, like my tendency was to be like, oh, let me try to understand them. So like kind of like lower my vibration and get at their level. And I'm not doing that anymore.
No.
It's and just like,
that's another form of empowerment, because you can't help everybody. And it's not your place to help everybody. So how do you maintain your sense of community? Obviously, Instagram is a big one.
Yes, totally. I will start probably at the beginning of the year. We'll also start. I do have a Facebook group, but it's related to my old business. So like I want to revive it. I do like having my own tribe and communicating to my own community all the time. So like a Facebook group is really good for that. I mean, I had one in the past. So yes, Instagram and Facebook, I would say, for my business community. And then I am part of a lot of women's groups. I've taken a lot of courses related to women's empowerment. So like that is super important for me, for networking, for business, but also for my own growth. And those groups have been very important for me in finding my own voice and evolving and becoming braver and bolder and letting go of conditioning. So like, yeah, those are always present. Of course, I would like to see some of them in person when we're able to
one day
travel again, right? One day. But yeah, I'm pretty well connected in general. With my people, but also with friends and communities outside of business. Yeah.
And having these authentic conversations with people, like we've had conversations before on Zoom. This is not the first time we've met on Zoom. We have conversations in DMs on Instagram. And I love that everyone now has a way to communicate with everyone.
Yeah.
And derive a really positive interaction from that. It can be really positive. It's a way we didn't interact 20 years ago.
Yeah, totally.
And now it's completely accepted, and you do get all the good vibes and the good feels from online communication.
Totally. And like that's so important for business too, because you can connect authentically with your people on Instagram, for instance. And I love having conversations and, you know, offering value up front in a very non-attached way, non-slimy or sleazy way, so that like you can have, you know, like I want like my clients and I are friends, like become friends. So like it's such a positive, structure that like I love to just like extend that to my prospects and people I connect with in general, like you and I, and just people on Instagram in general or on Facebook. So like I kind of extending that good feeling and that goodwill and that trust. And like I find myself also talking about random things. Like I always like to talk about books, right? So like I'll have book conversations. So like I'll like to talk about puppies. So I'll have puppies conversations.
I have bunny conversations. But
great. Yeah. Just like so you can be really your authentic self and like all the range, so like the nerdy, the silly, the academic, the whatever, the dancer, all of it, all your range is welcome.
And it's interesting. We're all interesting people.
Yeah, totally. And people want to hear your story.
They do. It always comes back to story. No matter what, humans love stories. I mean, we were an oral history culture humanity was oral history for thousands of years. So I say in Australia, where we were oral history for 60,000 years, incredible. So the stories that we have over here. So what's your why? What keeps you motivated right now? So this is my last podcast of 2020, and I think it's been incredibly positive. So a positive way to end the year for 2020. What's your why and what keeps you motivated? And what are you looking ahead to in 2021?
Yeah, so my why is really about, amplifying women's voices. It has always been about that. That's really what keeps me going. And with that, creating different structures. I think there are problems, real problems with the institutions, traditional institutions in the Western world that are just not working anymore. They're very patriarchal and just like, they're not working. They like suck the life out of you. They're dehumanizing. They're steeped in privilege and white supremacy. And like, we need to create different systems. And I believe the way to do so is to build authentic businesses based on our authentic voice, because from what I can tell, all the women I'm in touch with, they have things to say. And we need to hear those things, right? And the way I teach them to do so is through a business that's fully aligned and an expression of that, so that they can change people's lives. And little by little, we can create this ripple effect of change in general, which is really, I firmly believe that this is a time of change, and the change is going to happen on a micro level if we all work together to change collectively, right? Because like, it's the end of like the guru, it's the end of like the authority figure having all the power. We don't trust them anymore, and like, we have to trust ourselves and our businesses and like the things that we have to say. And it takes a lot to get here, but it's totally possible. And if you have that instinct inside, just follow that.
If you have something to say, become a thought leader. It's a journey, but even if you're a thought leader to 10 people, and then exponentially you will create that movement. I love that. That's beautiful. So
and really, like, the only thing that you need is grit. Keep going.
That's the number one thing I teach in my DIY is grit and resilience. And grit is different to resilience. It's incredible. And that's what you need in entrepreneurship. So what are your top tips, top number one tip for all the smart women in business across the world?
Well, I would say, like, don't be afraid to be fully self-expressed. Don't hold back, and create a business based on your authentic voice. See, like, if there's any place in your business that feel like a little bit like you can't breathe, those are the places that require your attention, whether it's about like letting go of a program or letting go of a funnel or letting go of like complicated tech. And actually, you can replace all of that, as I did, with your own authentic voice. Just saying what you really want to say. I have like a free call that's based on like you saying what you really want to say. So like, that's kind of like my thing. Like, say what you really want to say. Don't think that you have to be proper or professional. Get in touch with what you really want to say and build a business around that.
I love it. How can listeners find out more about you and your work, Claudia?
So the best place to find me is definitely Instagram. So it's at Claudia.Consolati. And then I also have a website that I haven't really updated lately, but you can find a freebie there on finding your voice and the blogs to finding your voice. And the website is thewomenspeakerproject.com. And yeah, those are the two main places. And I also do have a free 30-minute call if you really want to get to the bottom of your voice and your message. And that's also on my Instagram. And the call is it's called What the Fuck Do I Want to Say? Because we get to the bottom of like what you're really meant to say in your business so that you can be seen as the thought leader and also like make cash with your ideas.
Because we love cash.
Yeah, totally. Because we love talking about money and it's so empowering.
We do.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I will put Claudia's links in the show notes. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, Claudia. And what a way to end 2020. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Jane.